Hey, what's up guys? Matt with the Movement System. In this video, we're gonna cover the 5-minute protocol to build wrist tendon strength. In our previous video about how to build tendon strength, we had a ton of questions from rock climbers, arm wrestlers, and tennis players about how to build tendon strength, specifically in your hands, wrists, and forearms. I'm gonna be honest right from the start, I don't do a lot of these exercises and have pretty weak and small forearms, so feel free to let me know in the comment section. But that said, I do know that tendon issues are common in a lot of these sports like rock climbing, and I've helped a lot of clients and athletes with these issues, so I wanted to share the protocol that I use with you today. And the reality of this is that if you go to a general physical therapist or just Google wrist tendon strengthening exercises, you're gonna get a bunch of stretches and light exercises that don't really meet the thresholds and the loading requirements to actually build tendon strength. If instead you follow a good protocol that loads the tendons in the right way, you can get 10 times the results in just a few minutes. So importantly, the protocol that we're gonna cover today, one, actually involves enough load to make a meaningful change to tendon properties, and number two, takes advantage of a current understanding of tendon research. I think this will actually help you build strong tendons, and if you're having persistent tendon issues that won't go away, I really think this will help. So let's go ahead and dive right into it. All right, let's do a 60-second breakdown of the current tendon training science, so that way you understand why we're doing the protocol that we are. A tendon is what connects a muscle to a bone. It's elastic, meaning it stretches and stores energy. When we have a tendon injury, it looks something like this. In reality, it kind of looks something like this on an MRI, but we're just going to use this diagram to simplify. There's going to be a portion of degenerative tendon, and there's typically a portion of good, healthy tendon around it. When we do very light exercises, like stretches and dumbbell curls that aren't very heavy, we're just primarily going to use the portion of healthy tendon. We're going to direct force around the area of damage and not really make much change to this area. Also, just as a protective mechanism, this is what happens with really fast movements as well. Often with really fast movements, we also use the muscle tendon unit as a whole and don't really stimulate the degenerative portion. But there is one type of exercise that seems to specifically target degenerative tendon in a way that other exercise types don't. And that is an isometric exercise, or a very heavy exercise done slowly and controlled. And there's a specific reason why. When we do a really heavy isometric muscle contraction, for example, gripping onto something that we can hold on to for only about 30 seconds, what's gonna happen is our muscle is actually slowly shortening during that time, and our tendon is slowly lengthening. We call that length viscoelastic creep. As that tendon creep or slow lengthening under load of the tendon occurs, we're going to have to stimulate this area of collagen to reform. This is why there's some good evidence that high load isometrics or heavy slow resistance exercises can specifically heal tendons in a way that other exercises often don't do. So that's the foundation of the protocol that we're about to cover. There are a couple different muscle groups that we want to know about. There are wrist flexors, which are really important for gripping, especially for someone like a rock climber. These muscles flex the wrist, but they also help prevent the wrist from extending and giving out on a rock wall, for example. These are largely placed on the inside of the forearm. We also have the extensor muscle groups on the back of the forearm, and these are largely used in tennis, for example, during a backhand. And then we also have some alternative movements like pronation and supination, where we're turning the wrist over, and also radial deviation and ulnar deviation, where we're moving our hands side to side like this. So with our protocol, we're going to target a couple of these different muscle groups. Know that some might be more specific to rock climbers, some might be a little bit more specific to tennis players. It's up to you which exercises you want to choose to do for your specific needs. All right, now let's cover the protocol. This protocol is going to be exactly the same for every single muscle group. We're going to do 30 seconds on with a hard, heavy isometric, 90 seconds rest 3 times, and that's it. This protocol can be used for all the different exercises we're going to show you today, and it works for a few important reasons. Number one, we're choosing an exercise that's actually high enough load to be really challenging and to make this 30 seconds of work really effective. If we do this right, and we're doing 30 seconds of work 3 times, 90 seconds total with really high load and a strong isometric contraction, we're gonna get more out of that one exercise than we would get from a ton of different really light stretches and wrist curl variations with weight that just doesn't reach the loading thresholds. Importantly, you want to choose a weight that you can do for these exercises for just 30 seconds. Let's go ahead and show you with the first exercise, which is just going to be a grip exercise. All right, our first exercise is just going to be a grip isometric. I like this open trap bar because it's bigger and fatter than a regular barbell. Now, if you had a regular barbell, you could do this exact same exercise, but having a wider grip is going to work those flexor muscle groups. And I know there are attachments that you can use to a barbell to widen the grip. If anyone knows about those, let me know in the comments below. This can be done with 2 hands or with 1 hand. What you want to do is find a weight that's challenging enough that you can use for 30 seconds and that it's really challenging for your grip, but your grip doesn't just give out too quickly. If you talk to rock climbers, they'll probably tell you about this. If you go in and you just go to a bunch of grips that you can't handle and that give out, that can really burn your wrists out quickly because those eccentric or lengthening contractions are really fatiguing to your wrists. But you can handle a lot more strong isometrics, which is why a lot of rock climbers actually do train with different isometric positions. For example, doing hangs on different parts of the hand. So to build wrist tendon strength, the protocol that I want you to use is something that's really challenging to grip, but you can hold on to for just barely 30 seconds. If you're just trying to get a general wrist training stimulus, just grab a barbell, load it heavy enough with 2 hands that you can grip it for 30 seconds, and then your grip is about to give out at that point. Set it down, rest for 90 seconds, do it again 3 times. You can also use kettlebells or dumbbells and even do a march or a forward walk while you're doing this. If you're a rock climber, you're going to want to do these in multiple positions. There's different muscles that control each joint of your hand. There's muscles that do this, there's muscles that do this, there's muscles that do that. So you're going to want to train different grips. If all you've done is go to the rock climbing gym and do a bunch of walls until you burn out and then go home, and you haven't ever trained the isometrics and held different positions, then adding a few sets of isometrics in different positions is really going to help you build that tendon strength. So long as the weight is challenging to grip and you're holding on to it for a good 30 seconds, squeezing the forearms hard, that's gonna be an effective exercise for you. Now, the next muscle group that you might wanna train is the extensors of the outer forearm. And we wanna do this similarly with a very challenging load. And that challenging load might be whatever it is for you. For me, I might choose around 25 pounds, hold the wrist off the edge of the box, and then just try to hold it. Now, you could do really slow controlled reps and get a very similar training effect. The wrist does naturally kind of turn a little bit, so note that you don't have to keep the dumbbell completely level. It actually is going to turn about that angle, and that's totally fine. If you're going to do these with a barbell, you probably want a curved curl bar to actually take advantage of that natural wrist position. From this same position, we can start to train the other motions of the forearm, radial and ulnar deviation. We would just do that by holding the dumbbell up like this. This one's usually stronger because your muscles can hold quite a bit more weight for this position. So you may just need to choose a heavier dumbbell for this, or even provide a little bit of extra resistance, kind of pushing out and trying to get your arm to go down and not having your wrist let it drop like that. And then another motion you can train is pronation and supination, which is essentially like opening the hand. And this one's really important for arm wrestling and also for rock climbing and other sports like that. So the traditional one that you'll see is with like a rubber mallet or a hammer. I find this is usually too easy for people. And again, if you can do 100 reps, it's just not gonna reach the loading thresholds to actually make a change to your tendon properties. So what you're gonna wanna do is find something a lot longer that's more challenging. For example, this broomstick, it's actually not that heavy, but it's heavy enough at the end and it's a really long lever. So if I grip it all the way here at the back, I can do really slow controlled repetitions, or I can just hold isometric positions. So I can hold here for 10 seconds, come down, hold here for 10 seconds, and come down here, hold here for 10 seconds, for example. And training, again, either very slow and controlled or holding a specific position slowly shortens that muscle, slowly lengthens the tendon, and gives it that stimulus, especially to injured areas of the tendon, to rebuild and reform collagen. All right, if you take nothing else away from this video, just take away that you want the exercise to be adequately challenging to reach the loading thresholds that are required to actually make changes to your tendon. If you're just doing a bunch of light exercises that you can do hundreds of repetitions of, it's just not gonna make a change to the tendon. We have research that shows this. If we can reach the loading thresholds, which is typically above about a 7 out of 10 or a 70% contraction strength, which means it's really a challenging exercise, then you'll actually be able to stimulate collagen synthesis and build stronger tendons and get out of the pain cycle that you're in. I would encourage you to set a goal and try to progress. So if you were gripping, for example, 60 pounds in each hand for the dumbbell exercise the first week, then maybe move to 65 or make your goal to move up to 75 over a few weeks. by having that specific goal that you're starting at this point and you can't do 75 now, but you really want to get there, then you're going to force your body and your tendons to adapt and become stronger to be able to do that activity. It may be enough for you to just do the 5-minute protocol, 30 seconds on, 90 seconds rest with a really challenging load 3 times every other day. And literally 5 minutes every other day might be enough for you to build tendon and wrist strength with one exercise. But if you're a competitive rock climber or a competitive arm wrestler, you may need to do multiple exercises. I would still keep the same format though, training your tendons every other day to allow some time to rest and recover. Typically we hit net positive collagen synthesis or muscle growth about 36 hours after training. So it's important we have that time to recover. But like I said, you can do one exercise for 5 minutes, or maybe you're choosing 3 of these different exercises that we showed you today and doing 15 minutes of tendon training every other day. I really hope this video pointed you in the right direction. And if you've been trying a lot of light exercises and stretches with no relief and this helped you a lot, then make sure you go ahead and smash the like button, subscribe so you don't miss any future videos, leave a comment below to let me know that it was helpful, or if you have any tips for anybody else who is using this type of training, or any other specific wrist, hand, elbow exercises that you found to be effective. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.